Imagine a ruler so twisted, so consumed by lust and power, that he turned temples into brothels and forced Rome's elite to serve as his playthings. Sounds like a dark Netflix series, right? Except this was real, and it happened nearly 2,000 years ago. You're about to enter the world of Gaius Julius Caesar Augustus Germanicus, better known to history as Caligula. Rome's golden boy, beloved at first, would become its darkest nightmare. He wasn't just a mad emperor, he was a man whose desires became instruments of terror. And today we'll explore 5 sexual atrocities that made him infamous, atrocities that shocked the Roman Empire and continue to haunt historians to this day. But first, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Dark Pages of History. Trust me, you don't want Caligula to be the only thing haunting your nightmares tonight. Caligula was born in 12 AD, the son of Germanicus, a popular Roman general, and Agrippina the elder. As a child, he was adored by the people and soldiers alike. The nickname Caligula literally means little boot, given to him by soldiers who dressed him in tiny military gear. Sounds cute, right? But this golden boy of Rome had a childhood shadowed by tragedy. When he was just a teenager, his father died under mysterious circumstances, and his mother and brothers were exiled or executed by the paranoid Emperor Tiberius. Young Caligula witnessed cruelty firsthand, learning that the world rewarded cunning, manipulation, and sometimes sheer ruthlessness. He ascended to power in 37 AD, greeted with celebration. The public adored him. But soon, the charm faded. Historians suggest he may have suffered from a serious illness early in his reign that altered his mind. Rome's once beloved prince slowly became a tyrant. The man who could charm senators into laughter now delighted in their terror. And when he finally wore the crown, his hunger for control began to mix with darker, more perverse desires. What started as political cunning became something far more dangerous, and the empire would soon feel the consequences. Caligula's first notorious act involved his sisters, especially Drusilla. Historical accounts are murky, but multiple sources suggest he may have had an incestuous relationship with her. Drusilla wasn't just a sister, she was elevated to divine status, referred to as the Queen of Rome. Imagine your sibling being treated like a goddess while the world watches in silence. Rome whispered, feared, and sometimes admired. Drusilla's death in 38 AD reportedly devastated him. But what followed was chilling, a descent into sexual obsession and perverse rituals to honor her memory. This is where history stops being polite. Caligula's fixation on Drusilla set the tone for a reign where family, power, and lust were inseparable, and the people of Rome could only watch in horror. Cliffhanger. But Drusilla's death was only the beginning. Caligula's appetite for domination would soon spill into the streets of Rome itself. Caligula didn't just confine his perversity to his family. He turned Rome's elite into instruments of his cruel amusement. Senators' wives were forced to attend private feasts, stripped of dignity, and made the center of humiliating spectacles. Picture this. Your boss invites your wife to dinner and announces she's tonight's entertainment. Terrifying? That was everyday life under Caligula. His sexual sadism was not just for pleasure. It was a weapon of power, a way to remind the Roman elite who truly ruled. Pattern interrupt. If you thought your office holiday party was awkward, just be glad you weren't a senator's spouse in ancient Rome. These public displays of debasement created a climate of fear. Senators who once walked proudly through the forum now shuffled with haunted eyes, knowing that one wrong move could lead to personal humiliation, or worse, transition. The humiliation of Rome's finest was not enough. Caligula's next step would turn his very palace into a temple of sin. Caligula transformed parts of the imperial palace into what historians call a brothel for the elite. Noble women, young men, and even slaves were forced to participate in sexual acts under his supervision. The emperor would collect the earnings as a perverse tribute to his rule. Imagine walking through your home and finding rooms dedicated to debauchery. Rooms where even the daughters of senators were coerced into serving guests. Rome's palace, once a symbol of authority, had become a grotesque theater of lust. Humor reset. Rome called it innovation. I call it the world's worst Airbnb review. Cliffhanger. And if turning the palace into a brothel wasn't shocking enough, Caligula decided even the gods couldn't escape his depravity. Caligula's arrogance knew no limits. He declared himself a living god, demanding temples be erected in his honor. But he didn't stop there. Temples became sites of sexual rituals, with priestesses forced into acts that desecrated sacred spaces. Statues of Jupiter, Mars, and other gods were replaced with his own likeness. Rome's religious leaders were horrified. The divine, the sacred, the untouchable, all violated by one man's ego and lust. Transition. When a ruler starts believing he's divine, the line between humanity and perversion disappears. And this set the stage for his most horrifying acts yet. Perhaps the darkest of all, Caligula's twisted games of sexual pleasure and cruelty. Accounts tell of him forcing couples to perform before him, only to punish or kill them afterward, based on his whims. Pattern interrupt. Rome called it entertainment. Modern YouTube, content violation, big time. He would watch torture with arousal, blending fear and lust into one terrifying spectacle. Soldiers, servants, and citizens alike trembled under his gaze, knowing participation could mean death. Cliffhanger. But even a monster's reign comes to an end. One night, Rome decided it had endured enough. By 41 AD, Caligula's reign of terror provoked retaliation. The Praetorian Guard, tired of his cruelty, plotted his assassination. One fateful day, he was surrounded, stabbed 30 times, and finally silenced. Relief swept through Rome like a storm. Finally, the nightmare was over. Emotional payoff. The fear, terror, and chaos of his rule ended in an almost poetic justice. But the story of Caligula didn't vanish. He became a cautionary tale, a reminder of what happens when unchecked power mixes with unbridled desire. Caligula's reign wasn't just about sexual depravity. It was a warning about the corruption of absolute power, the dangers of unchecked ego, and the human capacity for cruelty. History doesn't repeat, but it warns us. So next time you read about political power or wealth unchecked, remember, desire, when combined with control, can destroy everything, from families to temples to entire empires. So, after everything you've just heard, after walking through the twisted corridors of Caligula's Rome, let's take a moment to breathe. Because here's the truth, Caligula didn't just destroy an empire with swords and lust. He destroyed it with desire without direction. He had everything, wealth, influence, limitless pleasure, but not an ounce of discipline. And that's where history whispers a lesson we often overlook. You see, power itself isn't evil. Desire isn't dangerous. What matters is what you do with it. Caligula let his impulses run wild until they consumed him and everyone around him. But what if we flip that idea? What if we use desire, not to destroy, but to build something unstoppable? That's where the real power lies. Not in domination, not in corruption, but in consistency, patience, and control. Now this may sound like a strange connection, an emperor's lust and your bank account. But stay with me. The same energy that drove Caligula's hunger for more exists in all of us. The difference is direction. He spent his energy chasing instant pleasure. You can channel yours into long-term growth. And that's exactly what my next video is about. The power of compounding. It's not just a finance topic. It's a philosophy of life. The idea that small, smart actions, repeated consistently, can create results more powerful than any empire ever built. While Caligula wasted his wealth in nights of excess, real power comes from multiplying what you already have. Time, money, knowledge, even discipline. Compounding is proof that patience can outperform greed, that steady growth can outlast chaos, and that self-control is the real empire builder. So, if Caligula's story showed you what happens when power collapses under desire, then the next video will show you what happens when discipline transforms into destiny. Click on the end screen now. Step out of ancient Rome and step into a lesson that can change your life today. Because history's darkest pages don't just tell us what to fear, they tell us what to become. Like, subscribe, and stay curious. This is Dark Pages of History, and the next chapter begins with you.